nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Council President Kleberg,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm also present via Zoom.
Okay. We have Councilor Lickey participating by Zoom also. So we have a quorum. Our next order of business, item 3, citizen comments. It's an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items or other items they wish to bring to the attention of the council. Citizens are encouraged to discuss operational issues in advance with the mayor. And in consideration of others wishing to speak, please limit remarks to 3 minutes. Do we have any citizen comments this evening? We have a stand right over here, microphones in the ceiling. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our presentations. First up, we have a proclamation. This is Fire Prevention Week, proclaiming the week of October 6th to 12th, 2024 as Fire Prevention Week. We'll present the proclamation to Fire Chief Reitmer and Fire Marshal Sorrell. Want me to stand up and read this, or I can't remember how you do it.
What's that?
Do I sit here and read it, or do I stand up like that?
You can sit there and read it if you'd like.
Okay.
You're running the show.
Okay, this is a proclamation of the City of Lewiston, Idaho. Whereas the City of Lewiston is committed to ensuring the safety of all residents and visitors, and fire poses a serious public safety risk, especially at home, where the majority of fire deaths occur. And in 2022, over 2,700 people in the U.S. died from home fires, and fire departments responded to 360,000 incidents. And 3 out of 5 home fire deaths are linked to homes without working smoke alarms, yet working alarms significantly reduce the risk of death. And Lewiston residents should install smoke alarms in all sleeping rooms, outside each sleeping area, and on every home level, while also ensuring alarms meet the needs of family members with sensory or physical disabilities. And testing smoke alarms monthly and planning a home fire escape are vital steps to safety. And Lewiston's first responders are committed to fire prevention and safety education, and residents are encouraged to adopt personal fire safety measures. And the 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme, Smoke Alarms, Make Them Work For You, highlights the importance of having smoke alarms at home. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Lewiston, proclaim the week of October 6th through 12th, 2024, as Fire Prevention Week, and urge all Lewiston residents to ensure their homes have working smoke alarms and to support the fire prevention efforts of Lewiston's fire and emergency services. Chief? Can I say a few words?
Fire
Yeah.
Marshal.
Sure.
We just asked Julian Sorrell, Fire Marshal for the City of Lewiston. Being Fire Prevention Month, we're just asking that everybody go through your homes, alert everybody that you know to make sure that you have working smoke alarms in your homes. We actually had a fire here last week with a member that's of a property, a member that's in the group. Smoke alarms operated. It was a really successful operation. Fire got knocked down really quickly and everybody got out safe. So that just shows the value and the benefit of working smoke alarms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're going to move on to our discussion items. These are action items, but please note that identifying an item as an action item does not require the City Council to vote on that item. So starting off will be the Thane Road Corridor and Access Study. This is a review of the Thane Road Corridor and Access Study prepared for the Lewis-Clark Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization by Kittleson and Associates, Inc. Director Johnson.
Good afternoon, City Council. Dustin Johnson, Public Works Director. Just here to do a quick introduction as to what you're seeing, why you're seeing it, and why it is happening right now. So this council in particular in the most recent 3-4 years has put an emphasis on addressing our deficient arterials. So we've started the arterial reconstruction fund, and so we're moving forward in planning, designing, and constructing some of these major arterials. And so I continually come up here and talk about the arterial loop, Main Street, 21st, Thane, Bryden, back down to Snake River. I think to date, all but Thane have been discussed in front of this body, and so we're here to talk about Thane. Thane has not been ignored. We've actually been working, or the MPO has contracted with Kittleson. It's been a long study, public outreach and planning and data analysis, and Wendy will go into the details of what they've been doing. And so evaluating kind of what the risks are and some low-hanging fruit opportunities to address some of those problems that we have along Thane corridor. And so what we'll do today is Wendy will walk you through the Thane corridor and access study, take any questions you have, and then hopefully moving forward, the city council can officially adopt this plan as a guiding document. And once we get to that point, we can use this to update our capital improvement plan in February that we do annually. And so this has some specific called out projects that we can do to make this corridor function better and function safer. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Wendy from Kittleson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. This has been a long, tough project. We have a lot of challenges on Thane Road. It was a pleasure to work on it. So the first thing I want to start with are the project goals. And it was really, we wanted a network that accommodates the local commuter traffic, the regional traffic, and freight. We know that economic development and commerce is important along this corridor. We also wanted to improve safety for all the users, motorists, bicyclists, pedestrians, and transit. Again, we wanted to accommodate the traffic today, but also know that Lewiston is a growing area and looking into the future. Again, improve walking and biking routes and connectivity, so not just along Thane Road, but looking out a little bit to the outside of it. How are people accessing Thane Road? What adjoining streets need some improvements? Facilitate that future development and minimize impacts to adjacent properties and utilities. We heard early and often on this project, make it 5 lanes wide. There's really not enough room to do that. So we had a robust public engagement. We spent September 2023 at the county fair. So we were there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We talked to about 365 people. And then we also held a virtual open house for those who couldn't make it. And we had about 70 online visits where they completed a survey. We went back in March to the Home and Garden Show where we talked, and I want to say for each one of these, we walked up and down the corridor and knocked on every business, walked into every business, and we sent them a postcard in advance. So we really tried to reach every business. And the postcard went to the property owner and the local business. So got their direct input as well. So in March, we talked to about 115 people. What was really encouraging about this is how many of them remembered us, and they were glad to see that we came back and reported on the feedback. And then in May, we did a pop-up at Rosars and also had the virtual open house, and we had about 52 stop by. So it was really important that we went to the people. So our first September, not only were we at the fair, but we also had pop-ups at Rosars. So really trying to meet people where they were at to get good input. So key themes. The first key theme I think we heard was good luck. The second one was something needs to be done. Thane Road and 10th Street was the top priority throughout all the outreach. And that was really to improve safety. Everyone said crashes are increasing on the roadway. We need to do something about it. There was a lot of support for alternatives that reduce the left turning conflicts, especially if they wouldn't adversely impact businesses. And that was really simplifying a lot of those multi-leg intersections. We have a lot of intersections where we have 6 different roads coming in at skewed angles. Not ideal. So a lot of support for improved pedestrian crossings and the desire to attract new businesses. So as we went out about this plan, we really wanted something that the average person could understand. We know that not everybody's a traffic nerd, so we wanted to make this accessible to as many different people as possible. So we developed some summary sheets where you can get a quick overview of it. If you want more details about the crashes, the traffic projections, there's probably a 200-page technical memo. You can dig into that as much as you want. But we wanted a concise report that gave people the highlights. So we documented the traffic, we documented the crashes, and which intersections were expected to perform poorly in the future. And again, you'll see common themes here. We've got Vista, Preston, 10th and Werner, Bryden, and Bryden to Airway Heights. That's where we have the crashes. That's where we have some failing intersections. The other thing of note along Thane Corridor is there are 157 access points. So access management is a significant part of our recommendations. And that's looking at a property that maybe has 4 driveways and could get by with 2. Because imagine every time someone stops to make a right turn in, there's a chance for a rear-end accident if somebody's not watching, or trying to cross 4 lanes to make a left turn. So we went through a lengthy process. We developed a lot of different alternatives. I think at one point we had something like 45 different alternatives. We were instructed to leave no stone unturned. So we did the initial evaluation, went to the public. We whittled it down to 30 alternatives. We were feeling pretty good about that. And then we got it down to 21, and we came down to a final alternative. So it was a very iterative process. We worked with the city of Lewiston, we worked with the MPO and the public. And for our evaluation criteria, any alternative traffic had to flow. We had to meet traffic operations for today and into the future. We couldn't make things worse. We had to improve safety performance, really minimize those right-of-way impacts and understand what those were, connecting the corridor, and then what were the impacts to businesses. So that's how we kind of went through that whole evaluation process. So we came up with a summary of recommendations. So again, we have this big sheet that says, okay, here's everything that needs to be done. So they were assessed at the network level. So it's really important with this study as you look at these sheets. Sometimes if you do project A, you must do project B, or we'll have a failure. So we outlined the entire roadmap for what order and how these things should be done. Some of the projects are more expensive. Some of them are pretty simple. You could start implementing them tomorrow. So the key things that we looked at a combination of new traffic controls, signals, signal timing, center medians, restricting access, street closures. You'll see a lot of side street closures. New transit pullouts. So whenever we had an opportunity to close a side street, we worked with the transit agency to say, hey, let's put a transit pullout here. Let's make this bus stop safer and increase transit use. So that was a pretty exciting outcome. And then we have some pedestrian hybrid beacons. If you're not familiar with those are the lights. The pedestrian pushes it. It's the signal that actually stops traffic so the pedestrian can cross safely. So that is really closer to the elementary school. And then just some other ones where we can improve some sight distances, we can improve some capacity, again, change some signal timing. So a whole variety of different alternatives. So, I got 2 screens going here. So again, access management, we are recommending some new driveway standards. And the reason we would recommend some new driveway standards is you don't want 2 driveways too close together because then you have conflicts. You don't want them too close to intersections. So implementing some new driveway standards is one of the corridor-wide recommendations. Traffic signal upgrades and leading pedestrian intervals, especially near that elementary school. And what a leading pedestrian interval does is it lets that pedestrian have just an extra couple of seconds to start walking before the traffic moves. So all legs are red, all traffic stopped, that pedestrian gets a head start and they're much more visible. And then some center medians, and that goes back to access control, trying to prevent some of those left turn movements where we're getting most of the crashes. So what I want to do next is show you some example project sheets. I went quickly over what those projects look like. So for each one, we have developed just this quick summary sheet. And so this is the Vista Avenue intersection. What you'll see on here is why we have the improvements. So in this case, it has the second highest crash rate on the corridor. 55% of those crashes are turning or sideswipe collisions, and it's related to the number of driveways. So then we talk about the benefits of what we're proposing. So we're gonna improve traffic flow by reducing the delay from turning vehicles. We're gonna reduce the number of conflict points, and we're gonna introduce a protected transit stop. We don't expect any utility impacts. We're gonna impact about 2,000 square feet of private property on the west side of Vista. So not a lot of property, but part of that is you'll see that we're gonna close off that road, and we do have to maintain fire access. And then we have an estimated cost for each one. So for Preston Avenue, we're proposing a signal at Preston Avenue. We're proposing closing off the south leg of 9th Avenue. Again, you're gonna see some private property impacts here. We did have to cul-de-sac this one in order to make sure that a fire truck could turn around and have access. So that was an important part of what we were doing. And again, with this new signal, with some lane reconfigurations, we've actually improved the traffic flow. I do want to mention for almost all of the intersections, we did look at roundabouts. We are fans of roundabouts. They improve safety, they help with traffic flow. But in this case, the footprint was too big given the traffic volumes. We would have taken out all 4 corners of the properties and not got much benefit. So we did consider cost benefit. And in this case, a signal was just as effective as a roundabout and much less impactful. Linden Avenue is where we're proposing some improved crossing enhancements. So again, here we have a pedestrian hybrid beacon, and that's where it fully stops the traffic. We've increased the kind of the angle, and we've got a center turn median to restrict some of those turns. And then we have the transit pullout, and you'll see we're closing a leg here. And finally, this is the one I know you've all been waiting for. What on earth are we gonna do at 10th Street? We tried roundabouts, we tried everything. We tried what we called a dog bone roundabout to try to capture both intersections, and it just didn't work. So the simplest treatment is a median to start to redistribute the traffic. And this improvement does rely on the redistribution of traffic to other intersections along Thane Road. That's why we've got a signal at Preston, but it does greatly improve the safety and operations here. And this does need to be combined with some of the other improvements so we don't have any backup of traffic. So with that, we did just some prioritization. So the highest need is 10th Street. That should be more of a near term. Warner Avenue and Burrell Avenue is kind of a medium need, and a low need was Stewart Avenue. So we tried to give you as much information to start implementing this as funding becomes available. So with the approval process, the Lewiston Clark Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization Technical Advisory Committee approved the plan on July 24th. Their policy board approved it on August 8th, and then it is scheduled to come before the City Council on October 28th. So with that, I'm happy to answer a lot of questions. There's a lot in this report. I'm sure you'll have some. Yes?
So back to your 10th
Yes.
picture. So does that medium, so it would force the traffic coming off of Thane to take a right?
Yes.
So the one at the end of the top, that's that Mike's Mechanical parking lot?
Yep. Yeah, so you're forced to take that right.
So what would, where would the high school traffic come in at?
So they're going to come in. So part of the theory here is they can start coming in at Preston with the new signal. They can,
Stewart?
Yeah, thank you, Stuart, yeah. And what we have there now is an unpredictable intersection. People aren't sure what to do. The congestion is worse during the high school hours in the morning and the afternoon when they get out. So this provides more predictability. We also heard from the public there was some concern about timber trucks making this corner, that they were going to, gosh, I forgot the name of the place.
Schwab?
No, was it Ziggy's? Yeah, they were going to Ziggy's. So we did check turning movements, and they do have alternative routes.
So your mediums are just a small curb or is it a wide?
So that'll depend on right-of-way. So we took them to a certain level of design. So these will all still have to go to full design, but they would be a raised median because people don't obey striped medians when you just paint them. And so we'll do, during final design, you'll decide the exact width of those medians. But they are prominent enough for, not that you get a lot of snow here, but to consider, that they're visible during snow.
I've got a question.
Yes.
So won't this cause more traffic on Thane? Because a lot of people will take this and go left on Warner there and avoid Thane completely. Like, especially if you're just going out of town, you don't want to go through all the lights. People take that and go gun club or to take their stuff to the dump. So you'll have more trailers on Thane. Because people can't go the back way. Like, they have to keep going in the middle of all the traffic and the lights and until they can make a turn.
Right, so you want that traffic on Thane, actually, that's your arterial, and you don't want it cutting through as much. And so with the other improvements, we're actually improving the capacity of Thane Road. So we did account for the redistribution of traffic.
Another question. So what about with the fire trucks and stuff when they're trying to go to calls? Won't all these blocks impede them actually getting to the scene of the accidents?
Not when you look at the surrounding grid network, and I do risk getting corrected here with who's in the audience, but when you look at the surrounding network, we were very cognizant of making sure that there were alternative routes. And that is why when we closed a roadway, we did make a cul-de-sac so they could still get in and turn around. So all of the businesses still have the same level of fire access. And we're closing some of the smaller, less used streets. Many of them are already one ways, so the access is not great for those anyway.
So the proposed medians, did you look at, so would that limit the access to certain businesses?
Yes, in some cases. So medians are never popular because it does restrict access. We scaled them back. We made sure that most businesses still have a left turn in and a left turn out. There are some businesses that will have right turn out, right in or right out, or will be accessed from the side street. But again, it's always a trade-off. This is about safety and not having crashes as well.
I'll just make a comment. I've been on the MPO board for quite a few years. In fact, they wrote me in being chair again this year, along with Councilor Schroeder. So we're two of the representatives from the city council that sits on this, and this has been a long time coming. But it's time to start taking little bites at it. Yeah, unfortunately, the city was left with whatever you can say, an unincorporated city up in the Orchards. It was developed basically by the county with no real foresight to the future. That's why we only have 45 foot. What's right away up there, Dustin?
Well, it depends. Some of it's not even 20 feet, but Yes, 45 to 60 feet on Thane.
And that's, you see things with Brighton Avenue also, potentially widening it to accommodate more traffic. And these things don't happen overnight, so glad to see we're getting somewhere. And I appreciate your presentation. Do you have any other questions?
I think Councilor Klein had a follow-up.
Oh, Counselor?
Yep, with that 10th Street, with that 10th Street median, I can see people just making U-turns and causing more accidents.
People are gonna do what people do. I think it would be a difficult thing to do, especially on that curve. We can always take another look at that. But when we look at the way most people are moving, we wouldn't expect that to happen too much. I think it is, it's a consideration, but at some point too with Thane Road, the challenges are so great that as an interim solution, this is probably the best one out there to start improve things and see how it responds. It's fairly inexpensive. It solves an immediate issue. We also do have some long-term recommendations for alternative access to the high school to start distributing that traffic. That requires some more right-of-way, some more extensive development. So we do have some longer-term projects in there as well.
Councilor Lidke has a question.
Oh, Counselor?
Thanks, Council President Kleberg. Can you run through where the medians, can we go through the other, pictures where you're gonna have medians? Or is that the interim is really only this particular section, or?
I did not bring the full overview of the medians. I don't know, Katie, are you on the call and could pull up the overall?
Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I can just name them off since I'm not the one sharing my screen.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Wendy showed the one at Vista, one between Vista and Preston, and then between Preston and Park, along Warner to restrict access to right in, right out. 10th, which we've been looking at, 10th and Warner. And then between Linden and Bryden. Oh, also between Burl and Cedar.
But if you look at the master sheet, it's this symbol here that it kind of looks like a roadway. Those are where we're proposing medians. And again, we cut some of the medians short so that people could get into the adjacent businesses, realizing they would have no access if we took them too far. So we kept some of the side streets open. We initially were going to close more of them, but we realized we needed to keep them open for business access. But by putting a median, we're forcing the traffic to turn onto those side roads and then into the business, rather than having traffic turn into the business and into the side roads and coming out of the side roads and out of the business. We're consolidating those access points.
Maybe, and maybe that's where might help us to break down like how you're going to allow that access where you utilize street lights and those left-hand turns. Is that kind of?
Yes, in the full report, there are concept designs that actually show the design of exactly where the access or the median would go. And you can see it's much easier. We didn't bring the concept designs for this work session. Dustin, did you send that report out? So there is a concept design and we can make sure everybody has that. So then you can see the exact extent of what's being proposed. But we tried to keep this a little more high level.
I think that'd be helpful just because I can tell you that, and I appreciate the community outreach, but once this starts going, the council needs to be able to answer the questions. And if I show people this particular map, I'm just going to create more confusion. So it'd be nice to be able to show them, because I think the median is an idea that's been brought to the city by citizens. So I'm not necessarily against it. I drive in Meridian all the time. I actually, they create the avenue to perform U-turns. I don't know that I'm ready for this town to attempt it, but I think it's time for us to start taking care of these roads. But can you speak more? My real question is the interim. What's the time period again? Like when I hear interim, I hear Band-Aid. So can you tell me how these are gonna, the investments we make in the interim projects, how they're going to flow into the long-term solutions?
Well, I think if you start just with signal timing, you get an immediate benefit that can happen right now without any of these other projects. So the median on, and Katie, correct me, what has to happen with the median on 10th? What are the two links there?
I think it's improvements at Linden, and also improvements at Bryden. And so to the previous point, all of the improvement locations are intertwined. So we didn't propose a side street closure without getting an understanding of how that traffic would be redistributed. Same with the medians. We accounted for additional left turn traffic at those larger intersections that accommodate a lot more traffic.
So the full report has the roadmap of what has to happen with which project. And some of that will depend on available funding. As you can see, you know, Linden sits in at $1.8 million. Preston, a new signal here, is at 1.6. But then the Vista Ave and intersections are a little more affordable. So can we get a transit stop and some medians in there? And here's where you can start to see the medians and understand what's happening. And so there's a sheet for each one of these, as well as an overall concept plan. And I apologize, it's a very complicated project to present, and we may have over-summarized. Maybe we should have included all the sheets in our presentation, but we weren't sure how much time we had either.
Question.
Yes.
So with the signal timing, is that going to help people actually get through the lights, or are we still going to have to stop at every single one?
It helps. So mostly what your signal timing is going to get you a benefit on is left turning movements. It's not going to, you're still going to have issues as long as you have, what did I say, 157 access points and you have people making right turns and left turns, it's hard to maintain a consistent speed on the corridor. What the signal timing will benefit is turning movements and clearing out the intersections more quickly. So you'll have less backup at the intersections. It doesn't mean you're going to get to stop. You're going to get to go a continuous green all the way through. And partly for that to work, everybody has to go exactly the same speed limit, and that's pretty difficult to get drivers to do.
Just one real quick, so talking about process, so Wendy's already said that this is scheduled for the October 28th City Council meeting for adoption. I don't think this has already been uploaded on the MPO's website, so I don't think that was in the packet for today's meeting. This is just a high-level overview. So I'll make sure the council, members of the public can get access to this report. It's on the MPO website, but I'll send the council the link so you guys can review it. For whatever reason, if we want to punt on this and take it in November, there's no urgency for this. The MPO has paid for this report. It seems to be pretty sound as far as public outreach and technical advisement through the TAC and everything else of the MPO. But moving forward, this report could help dictate future projects in the CIP, capital improvement plan. At which point, the capital improvement plan tells the city how to budget our future transportation projects, and that would be in a future policy or a future budget discussion. So none of these projects are going to be happening tomorrow. It's more, this is all part of the process. The MPO has done the planning. Now we'll do the budgeting, then we'll do the design, then we'll do the construction. So There's some, some crazy ideas in here. I think the fluidity of it flows pretty well. Technical staff and members of the public were pretty supportive of the findings generally. There are some things in here that look a little weird by themselves, but you pull out and look at the network in a whole, I think this helps things function better. And then there's a hierarchy of projects that can be implemented really easily, really soon. Others probably take a little while to save the money up and vet further into design. So I just wanted to make sure everybody doesn't think this is happening tomorrow or that, that we're gonna put this on the bookshelf, that there's a process and we're gonna move through it and make sure that, we get our value out of this study. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have any more questions? Alex?
Great job.
I appreciate your
Yes.
taking the time and
Absolutely.
walking us through this.
Yep. And it's complicated, so we're happy to support. If we need to do more of a corridor walk, we can do that too.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item B, Bryden Canyon Golf Course Operations Update. It's going to be an update on the management of the Bryden Canyon Golf Course from Courseco Senior Operations Manager Kevin Niesner.
Hello, good evening, or good afternoon.
Introduce yourself for
I
the
am.
audience. And
I'm going to step in here for Kevin. Kevin's here. I'm Mike Sharp. I'm the president and CEO of Courseco. And with me today is Kevin Niesner, Senior Operating Manager, and then Rob Hayes, our General Manager at the golf club. So, if you'd show me where the presentation is, that would be great. Guessing that's it.
right there.
Nobody gave us a presentation.
So there's no presentation?
Nobody gave us.
Tim didn't give it to him?
Okay, so this is good. So I'll go ahead and get started.
Oh, we came prepared.
Oh. For those in the audience that does not know, in the council, as you know, Tim Barker, our liaison in charge of our contract, his last day, I believe, was last week. So he's not here to introduce us and give us these glowing accolades and how great it's going out there. So I'll do that for him. Oh, there we go. Perfect, thank you. So yeah, this is a just 2-year update. We've been your contractor for the last 2 years, and there's no action item here other than we just want to provide an update and tell you how things are going from our perspective and share a little bit of information on the golf course. There we go. And a real quick brief on who we are, Courseco. Somehow it's not working too well. Hired us 2 years ago, take over the golf course under a management contract. Who's Courseco? 45 golf courses we manage, mostly municipal public golf courses is what we do. Pacific Northwest is where our primary golf courses are. WSU, Washington State University, we do Palouse Ridge over there. We have 5 other golf courses in the state of Washington, 3 in Oregon, 3 in Montana, and then California is where we're located at. Mostly, again, public golf courses is where we're at. We have 4 core values. Just to remind you, I did this presentation last year, but we have 4 things. One of the reasons you hired us, as our core values lined up, drive financial performance, stakeholder communication, what we're doing here, community engagement, and environmental stewardship. So by the numbers, how we're doing. So the first year we were here, we did 26,000 rounds. That was about a 5-6% increase from the previous year when we took over. And then this previous year the year we're in now, that ended last week. When we put the presentation sent over to the city, it was at 27,410 before we had our final numbers in. But I'm happy to report that number is about 28,500. And we're seeing about an 8% increase in rounds year over year, which is pretty substantial. Revenues saw a big jump in revenues, 836,000 up to $1 million. That's just a combination of mostly an increase in average per spend when it comes to merchandise, food and beverage, and then the increased rounds. So one of the things that you see that the golf course for not net operating income of the property, revenues minus expense. Last year we did 60,000. This year we're trending to do about 95,000 when the final numbers come in there. So again, an increase in bottom line performance at the property. The reason we didn't see all that revenue get to the bottom line, we did a lot of projects out at the golf course. Did a lot of, spent a little bit more money in operations. We had some inflation and some increase in wages and a full-time head golf professional at the golf course helping Rob out. We feel pretty good about, in 2 years, being able to drive the revenues, keep those expenses in line, and still be able to produce about 100,000 in profit at the golf course. So it's not that I don't know how to work a computer, but when I hit the down button, it goes up, so I'm trying to figure this out. So the math is pretty good for the last 2 years on the revenue side, the round side, and the expense side. But I think what's really important is just some of the things that Rob and the team are doing out there is truly living up to that core value of community engagement and doing community events, whether that's junior programs, whether that's the Halloween events, the Breakfast with Santa, and events like that. One of the main things that we want to do is use the golf course. We understand that 10% of the population plays golf. And so we try to answer the question, what are we doing for the other 90%? So we try to do many golf or non-golf activities to bring people out to see the facility. And these are just some pictures of some of those events, including going to trade shows like the Spokane Golf Show, which you can see right here. Just an example, pumpkin carving contest, Christmas cookies with Santa, golf camps, Easter egg hunts. Again, just to give you a flavor of it, what we're trying to produce out there is try to get as many people using the facility as possible. Activity breeds activity. So yes, we're focusing on the golf course and improving the golf course experience with better turf conditions and so forth, but we're really trying to bring the entire community out to the golf course. Work well with the home associations, both the men's association, women's association, with our golf tournaments. So the last 2 years, what have we done? What have we done together in collaboration with the city? This is just a list of a lot of things that we've done since we've been there to enhance the experience and improve the product out there. It's just a list. I won't go through all of them. But basically, it's remodeling the clubhouse, expanding the food and beverage, enhancing the golf course, and then some of the things that we're doing out there is also safety work too. Which just flowed a little bit better with my fingers here. Again, just a few more of the capital things that we've done, including getting new golf carts and some new maintenance equipment out there. So feedback. So it's important to us to get the data, to get the feedback from the customers. So we do online surveys. We also do secret shoppers. And in the first 2 years, the data that we've seen is that we've been able to enhance the experience. And by the results, we see they're slowly moving up. And we expect that to continue as we continue to make improvements in the golf course and continue with our hospitality training there. But feel pretty good about the direction we're going in on and the results of the surveys, including the third-party secret shopper. Do it this way. Again, secret shopper, third party comes out, evaluates the golf course. Fantastic scores. Rob and the team get out there. This year we received the award for last year's for the Choice Award. It's also another great accolades for us. So overall, well, apologize about the presentation and being a little clanky there and not being able to go through the slides in order. But from our perspective, after 2 years, we think it's going very well. I think we're making improvements to the golf course. We think that the customer experience is improving, the course conditions are improving, the revenue numbers continue to grow. We're able to do some improvements out on the golf course and make the experience better. And we still feel pretty bullish about the future and continuing to grow on that. We've recently turned in our budget for this new fiscal year, and we think that we're going to exceed those bottom lines that we projected, and we think we're going to see a continued increase in the rounds and the participation out there. With that, I'll stop, and I'll see if there's any questions that myself or Rob or Kevin can answer.
Have any questions? Counselor?
So when you figure out your net income,
Yep.
does that include the management fees and?
It does. It includes management fee, but it does not include a watcher fee.
Any questions from the Zoom land?
None here. Thank you, Kleberg. This is Counselor Forsman.
No questions, but a comment. This is Counselor Lidkey. I just want to say thank you to Corsco. I think that you've done a great job. I have been up on the course multiple times, and it's well taken care of, and you are, I think, doing the best with what you've been given. And I believe that the golf course, much like our other assets, like the airport and parks, are something that we need to do our best to keep pristine. And as a golfer, I've been very impressed. So thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. And again, just to reiterate, I think it's been a great partnership. I think the city has been very understanding, and they've been very supportive during these 2 years. We've done a lot up there, and this presentation doesn't really capture the energy and the excitement and some of the improvements that we've made out there. It's really been good quality work by Rob and his team up there, and the city's been a great partner. We're disappointed to see Tim go because he was our liaison and our contact, and he would have did a great introduction for us today. But we look forward to whoever our next contact is in liaison and working with them and continuing on building on our success that we've done so far. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
All right.
Very much.
All right, thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to the School Crossing Guard Program. It's an overview of the School Crossing Guard Program by Lewiston Independent School District Number 1 Superintendent Lance Hansen. Sir,
Thank you, Councilor.
introduce yourself for the audience.
Lance
please.
Hansen, Superintendent, Independent School District number one in the state, remember that. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of the council, and hopefully they can hear me okay in that way. This advice to come to the council was given by Mayor Johnson, and I just want to give you some history of the partnership that the Lewiston School District has had with the council in providing the city of Lewiston in providing safety for our children with regard to the crossing guard. So I'm just going to kind of walk you back a little bit, and then you'll find out why I'm here in a second. So approximately in 1989, so over 30 years ago, the city of Lewiston had contracted with the crossing guard. It's called the, I got to read it here, the Banana Belt Senior Citizen. I don't know if you were here at that time. Anyway, so the city of Lewiston actually paid for the crossing guards. So this was something that they did through a contract with this particular agency. Moving forward, there was different iterations. As you just saw, all the traffic that has started to grow in our community and also creates different intersections where there is pedestrian and vehicle traffic. So from that, different iterations of that particular agreement continued until about 1994. And at that point, there was an adjustment, and the school district started paying for the crossing guards. And however, there was an exchange with the city on different improvements. For example, beacons, crossing guard lights. So the city would do that aspect, and then the school district would pay for the guards. So there was an adjustment there. Then fast forward a few years later, and there was an MOU put together that the district and the city would share 50-50 in the payment or this particular program. That was in place for 20-some years up until about 2020, when the city chose no longer to participate. Now, that being said, the reason that we're here in front of council is that came on the administrative side. It didn't have anything to do with public works, just so you know. And we are trying to do is make sure that this council is aware that over 30 years, we had a history of working together to ensure the safety of our kids. And that ended up getting turned over to one of us. I've had very good conversations with the mayor in regards to this. I think it sends a message to our community that we share the interest of public safety when it comes to the crossing of when our children cross streets. We have about 14 crossing guards. It started with 3, by the way. In 1989, there were about 3, and now we're up to 14. We have the agreement here if you're ready to take action and sign it, but I don't see the mayor here. So I just want to make sure that you see that. I have trustee or our director, John Lang, here as well to support this particular request, and to be honest with you, to make sure that you all are aware that we no longer have this particular agreement in place, and the school district is asking that we return to our history for over 30 years of providing that service to our kids. Now, we're doing it anyway, but I'm asking for it to be a joint venture between the city of Lewiston and Independent School District number 1. So I would be happy to stand for any questions in regard to the program in itself. Let me add one more thing. Safe routes to school. Embedded in this conversation during that time, there was a grant that was received that we actually employed, the school district employed through a grant, Safe Routes to School Coordinator, which actually added part of our crossing guards. So if you'll see student patrols, for example, that came out of Safe Routes, the Safe Routes to School. We have student patrols at Camelot on 19th. There's a couple areas, not on Grail, but on 19th. We have student patrols also, I think it's on 14th by McSorley and the other intersection that goes through there. So there are some student people. Our SRO agreement that we have with the city has a training aspect in it. So our SROs train our guards now. So we have some interface with the city, so it hasn't been completely gone away. I'm actually asking us to go back to the true intent of where that came from and reestablishing that partnership. So I'd be happy to stand for any questions. And we have checked out our Safe Routes to School. We sent a liaison to Boise, and we'll be applying for that grant. We're going to be working with Public Works, so on the funding side of things. If there's a question like, okay, so what's the cost?
Yep.
I knew that was coming. So the city's share would be in 2020 numbers, 30,000. That's 50% of the cost. And the other thing, and another reason that we, and right after this, I'm not sure if it had anything to do with the money. I think there's a philosophical piece, and not to get into that, but we brought all of our crossing guards up to more of a wage that we could get crossing guards, and so that's bumped up. The first contract here payment was $5,000. It was paid back and forth. So we've come a little bit from that. But as you can see, I think that fit well if you can see the corridor study that just got done and how pedestrian traffic is embedded. That I have the different locations where we have crossing guards. The ones that are the most dangerous, and I'll say that, is Burl and Thing. That's where we had, unfortunately, and it wasn't during school or during crossing guards, but we had an infant fatality after a book fair. Yes, sir.
So is there a company that oversees all this, or does the school district employ all of them?
Currently, the school district employs, again, the city did at one point, and then we swapped. We employ them, our SROs train them as far as the crossing goes. Again, you'll see Whitman's another one, the one at 29th and 21st. That's another one, intersection that's not that fun. We get a lot of the Sunset area students who walk to Whitman from that particular area, and there'll be a crossing there. Our older students rely mostly on lights, right? So They talked about the 10th Street, that little stub at 10th Street and Thane. That's a crossing area for our students. I think we've done a very good job in working with the city on Warner, the flashing beacons, that has been helpful. Our roundabouts, we've talked about that. Burl, what was a concern of ours, Burl, our students walking to the Boys and Girls Club. So we've had, again, a long history of, and the same vision for our children when they're walking, and that is safety.
Counselor Lidkey has a question.
Counselor?
Yes, thanks, President Kleberg. Superintendent Hanson, $30,000 inflated. Are you asking, and I know you made a jovial comment that if we wanted to act on this today, you do know that we have assigned our budget for fiscal year 2025. And so my question is, are you proposing a service contract? Because I am assuming that you will handle all hiring, payroll taxes, disciplinary action, insurance coverage. So what would the relationship be with the city now? Through a service contract?
So I'm asking for us to reinstate the relationship we had for 20-some years, which is an MOU. And it's an agreement that we have. We employ them. We handle all of that piece. And then we invoice the city like we had for 20 years, and they would pay half of it. So we would just return to our agreement. Did that, Councilman Lidkey, did that answer your question?
It does. An MOU is essentially a contract that you'd be providing that the city would be supplementing through a payment with, you would come up with a full dollar amount with the MOU.
Yeah, what we do is we give an itemization of the cost of the program, and then we bill the city for 50% of it. That's what we have done.
I guess what I think I'm attempting to do is tell you that we have service contracts that have the availability of being assigned funds. So that would be the easiest way to create that relationship in my mind. That would be coming up in front of council very soon. But also I think my concern is that if you're going after grants, but besides, I obviously we want us to be safe, but if you're only patrolling near schools, how is it that this won't be covered through that grant relationship that you're building and working with Public Works? What is the need for money on top of that?
So the Safe Routes to Schools takes a look at corridors to schools, not just these intersections. So for example, it looks like sidewalks, bike lanes. Some of the things that they had done in the grant before is purchase bike helmets, put on bike rodeos, those types of things. So it increases safety, not just at intersections, but the entire trip to and home to the school. And we know that we have plenty of opportunities to increase pedestrian traffic in the orchards. And so that, my suggestion would be that. I can tell you right on 12th Street, right in front of our office, that needs to be done. And I know that we have worked at going out to the east on Warner, of getting that path to get them in. We've talked about that before. So my suggestion is that we would do those types of things to increase our sidewalks and corridors. Everything around Sacagawea, for example, we need more sidewalks there. When we moved to middle schools, we had just a little bit different lens with, pedestrian traffic coming to schools. So if we could fold that in, and I'm not saying, I don't know that, but I can tell you that the previous grant employed the Safe Routes to School coordinator and also some of the projects that I had just mentioned. And the training for the student patrols, which we already have in place.
Okay, can we go back to the Safe Routes to School grant? So we would be reinstating that program. It's currently not in use. Is that what I'm hearing correctly? I'm sorry, Zoom makes this difficult and
That's fine. The Safe Routes to School grant has expired. We no longer have a coordinator at the school district. Hasn't been utilized for quite some time. What I am saying is that we had received some additional information. Director Johnson and I had spoken, and we had sent one of our employees to Boise to inquire about how we could start accessing this Safe Routes to Schools dollars, for lack of better words, as we have found that Lewiston is one of the few larger municipalities in the state of Idaho who's accessing these funds. And so we are very interested in being a partner in that process to increase our safety corridors to schools. So that's what that grant's about. If we can fold it into that's fine, but that was just an example. My greater interest is continue the partnership with the city. That's where I am.
And I 100% agree. And I think Public Works, a huge component of that is obviously pedestrian safety, which our growing population of children is a huge part of that. So I have no qualms over a partnership of shared staff time to go after the available funds. I do have some concerns with our budget that we worked hard to get where it is. And also knowing that, there's been some legislative bills passed at a state level that should benefit the schools. So hopefully that is in the works for you guys to ensure that you have access to those funds that are supposed to help with infrastructure and other needs of the school. I'm just going to say it out loud that, we went from a 3% proposed budget down to a 0. And so to go and try to reopen this is not anything I'm really interested in. But again, a partnership with Public Works and staff time that's really already looking at these areas and in the capital improvement plan, I don't see an issue with and would fully support.
Well, we're sitting, like this evening, sir, of course, we're missing the mayor, we're missing Director Gordon. So, I wouldn't be anywhere close to being in a position to ask for a motion to do this tonight. But I think this is a conversation that we need to continue. And I agree with Councilor Lidkey that, we do have service contracts with several organizations in this town, Boys and Girls Club, Valley Vision, travel or whatever, travel council, or we quit that.
I don't think we have.
But, it's not to say it's out of the realm.
I would say that our ability to continue the conversation takes us in the right direction. Because at one point, we pretty much had lost that opportunity. This is a great opportunity to continue to have that conversation. I'd be happy to come back and continue to provide information to the council so they can make the informed decision just like our directors do as well.
Sure.
And any additional information, if you're okay, that Director Johnson and I could work on providing additional components to that or anything that would benefit the council in making their decision. And I understand the budget piece. I'm not making light of that. To me, to be honest with you, I think a continued message that the city of Lewiston and Independent School District No. 1 has a partnership for children's safety is paramount to our community. And whatever partnership that looks like would be my number one goal. We just had one in place for almost 30 years and it went away.
Counselor Kleberg.
Yes.
This is Counselor Forsman. I'm just curious, when did the MOU that you previously had expire at some point? Or, when did the relationship between that end? And I might have just missed that.
It was, there was a city manager. We still had a city manager, and there was some communication or that we couldn't find. Here's how it ended. We had sent an invoice, and then we got something back from accounting that says we've been instructed not to pay this because of a communication. So in the MOU or the agreement, either side could terminate the agreement, but it had to be 90 days before the school year started. We've never pushed that. I eventually, Mayor Johnson and I had worked, and I asked him for something in writing, so we had something clear as the direction of where the city was coming from. I have received that. However, with that guidance, I asked him what would be potentially next steps. And he had suggested that I come to council to make sure that all are aware of a relationship that we had, the history behind it, and then council could then grapple with our next steps.
Sure.
So that's kind of where we're landing.
Follow up, Kleberg. Councilor Kleberg. I agree. I'm just for a comment, but I agree with Councilor Kleberg and Councilor Licky that this is important and we need to look at continue to talk about this and explore the avenue and find the best route forward. I don't think I can make a decision today, but I definitely think it needs to be brought back and we need to come to a decision that we can live with. But it's really important for our child's safety. I have kids myself, so I do want to make sure this conversation continues. So appreciate you bringing this forward.
So I will look forward to addressing the council again at a future date.
Sure.
To provide additional information or greater clarity or depth or whatever is needed. But I appreciate your time.
Okay.
President Kleber, one more question,
Yes.
or actually a comment. From my perspective, I have a hard time having the taxpayers pay anything else towards the school district when almost a third of their taxes already go to the school district.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay, we'll make sure the mayor stays in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You
sir.
bet. Thanks, Lance. Okay. Down to the fun stuff. Lead and copper rule revision. Presentation of information regarding the federal lead and copper rule revision and an update on the accomplishments of the program from Public Works Director Johnson. You have the floor, sir.
Make sure, let the people behind the curtain make sure we're sharing. Dustin Johnson, Public Works Director, here to talk about lead and copper rule revisions. Kind of do my best to tell you why I'm here and what we're talking about here and then work our way through. There's a lot of, this is a unfunded federal mandate. And anytime there's an unfunded federal mandate, that means there's a rule book about 6 feet tall behind it. And so what we're trying to do here at the city of Lewiston is understand the federal rules as they work their way through the system to our own water system. And so what this boils down to is the interest to remove lead, particularly from the water system. And anybody who knows anything about water conveyance knows that lead is a malleable metal that is easy to heat up and seal water pipes, and it has been used since I think the Roman time. And since about the 1800s, we knew that it was not good for our thinking caps when we incorporated it into our water system, and so there's been efforts over the years to remove it. So that's why we're here today, to talk about where we are today, and kind of starting at the high level, talking about the Romans, and I'll work my way into how this impacts, excuse me, how this impacts our water customers in the city of Lewiston. Going back, this starts all the way back into 1972, the Clean Water Act, and you can see all the different water acts and rules that have been adopted since 1972. What this specifically is, this is the lead and copper rule revisions that we're talking about. The Executive Order 13990, this is what actually lit the fuse. And if you've been paying attention into environmental regulations for the last 10 years, this has been on the shelf for many years. It goes all the way back probably into the early 2010s. The reason it has taken so long is because it's such a massive undertaking to get all of these, so if you think about all the way back, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, some of these East Coast cities, they've been providing water to their customers for 250 years. And to try and find all of these lead joints, lead pipes, anything into that service line, it's a massive undertaking. And so trying to find federal dollars, balancing that federal government with the carrots and the sticks to get this thing moving forward. Well, finally in 2021, the executive order was signed, which then started the EPA rulemaking, which kind of is how the Environmental Protection Agency looks at these rules and implements the guiding documents for us. And so you can see by 2023, the city of Lewiston has started working on our education, survey, compliance information for us. And so that leads us to today of what we're talking about. So that's today. So this week is a big week where we will be submitting our public noticing to all of our customers and providing copies to the DEQ. And making our inventory available for the public. And then as we evolve through the rest of this year, updating the sampling plan to the DEQ. So I guess the biggest question is, what the heck does this actually mean? And this is the exhibit that I've got to show you. Essentially, we know and we've been operating within the right of way and with our public water mains forever. So we know what's in the ground more or less, what they've been built with, and how they function all the way up to the curb stop or the meter. That is where they become private property. And so that becomes the sticky wicket here. We know 100% of the publicly owned laterals and mains what the material type is. It's what's inside that property line. Typically, the city of Lewiston does not want to get into private property or anything like that. And that's why this lead and copper rule is unique. We're trying to protect the public health, but the public health is being dictated what's behind the private property line. So we're asking the public for their help to help identify these private lateral service lines. Because as of today, essentially 84% of these privately owned lateral service lines are unknown. So the federal government has tasked us to find what these are. There are some measures that we can look into. When we do a case in point, you probably saw last week, we did a sidewalk vault downtown. We had access to that water line where it came into the meter, where it left and went into the building. That was a perfect opportunity. We knew those weren't lead service lines. We moved and checked that box. But right now we have 4,770 that are unknown. Actually, 4,769 as of that one. So this is a huge undertaking. It's dictated by federal law, and so we're trying. It's not necessarily the clearest, cleanest, understandable document to go through, and so this is where we're asking for that public's help to better understand how this is. When it all boils down to that, we're trying to protect public health. As I mentioned earlier, the cities in the East Coast, and I think Flint, Michigan is probably the most common one that you hear about. That's what we're trying to prevent. With that being said, Lewiston, we don't have a lot of lead service lines. I'm not aware of hardly any. We've had a couple galvanized goosenecks that have lead solder, or copper service lines that have leaded solder. That's your most common lead contact that you're gonna see. The unfortunate issue is that we have to demonstrate that, just like anybody else within the United States. We have to demonstrate that we do not have lead service lines. So whether they're there or they're not, we know they're not there, but we have to demonstrate that. This is just a reminder, Lewiston is served by 2 independent water districts. The purple in that map is the city of Lewiston that we serve. The green in that line, or in that map, is Lloyd. Lloyd is completely independent from the city. They manage their own water system. We work with them pretty closely because we all serve Lewiston. The funny thing is, I think they may have an easier job because their domestic water system is a little bit, well, I should say, a lot newer than ours. Generally, anything down by Normal Hill or downtown is, it developed in the early 1900s. So it's probably a little bit more complicated, or the material type is probably far more diverse than what you would see developed in the 60s, 70s, and modern times. So I'm not gonna give them a hard time, but I think Lewiston's probably got a little bit of more challenge just because of the age of the system. At this point, I'm gonna hand it over to Carol Maurer, our Public Information Officer, and she's gonna kind of outline the steps that we've been taking behind the scenes to prepare for the rollout to the public for this.
Thank you, Director Johnson. Council, thank you for.
Welcome.
Thank you. So Dustin covered the majority of this initiative and why we're here in front of you today, and what we're about to educate the public regarding the initiative. So we have currently, you'll see the QR code on the screen there, as well as the URL. We have a dedicated web page that currently exists on the City of Lewiston website. If you scan that QR code right now, it'd take you right there, or if you entered that URL, and it has all of the essential information that the public needs regarding this requirement, what they can expect from the City of Lewiston, and why it's important. As Dustin noted, we need them to take action and to help us identify their service lines. And so we've got a helpful video up there. We've got a lot of FAQs and different things, as well as contact information if they're struggling to locate their service line material. So part of, I don't remember what was, okay. So this is just a little snip, again, with the QR code right there. Some of the language that we're using as we reach out to the public and ask them to take action for this initiative. So we have a requirement to reach out to the public within 30 days of notifying higher-ups about what we do know and what we don't know. And so this week, our water customers who are in that category of that over 4,700 customers that have service lines with material that is currently unknown are going to receive an official notice in the mail that tells them all about this initiative, as well as a flyer that's less scary that explains why it's happening and all the information that they need to know. We actually are sending it to more than just our customers. We're also sending it to those who are serviced by our water system. So that means the property owner as well as occupants within the property. So you'll be seeing a lot of information out there starting tomorrow. We decided this initiative was important enough to have its own campaign. And so that's this logo that you see at the top of the page here that says City of Lewiston Water Division Lead-Free Lewiston. Lead-Free Lewiston is our slogan. We want to be lead-free. And you know, the idea of potentially lead being in water is scary, and we don't want our patrons to be scared or to panic, but we want them to be educated with the information that they need. And so this is the image, if you will, that you're going to see associated to nearly everything that we put out there with all that helpful information. So it's going to start with this mailer. This is an initiative that may take a long time to get all the data back from the community that we need. So there may be an annual mailing that goes out to those who we don't have identified yet. Hopefully that number gets smaller and smaller as time goes on. We're going to have social media posts. We're going to notify our local news media. We're going to have articles in our own magazine and program guide, as well as our own e-newsletter and everything else. So we're going to do our absolute best to get this information out there through all the platforms available to us. And again, that launches tomorrow. So if you have any questions regarding our outreach efforts, I'm happy to answer those. If you have logistical questions, I'll leave that to the water professionals, but anything regarding the outreach.
Any questions? Councilor Spickelmeyer.
Thank you. So if I had a house that had questionable lines, why would I tell you? Would the DEQ make me replace them?
I'm going to defer to our technical staff here. So we have Justin Walker and Brian Lacey from the water department, but that is a conversation that we've had, but I'll let them answer the actual specifics of what the code says.
Hi, Brian Lacey, Water Manager. Good to see you guys again. Excellent question. So the best answer I can come up with is if you're a consumer in your own home drinking the water and you're questioning your pipe materials, it's in your best interest to know what those materials are. Working with the city of Lewiston is just going to help you be able to further identify them. We can give you steps to mitigate lead if there is lead there. Currently, we're not expecting a lot of lead in the system to be found, but if it is found, we have SOPs in place to help mitigate that. And as far as DEQ is concerned, I can't answer for them, but I don't think they're going to be asking to come into your home and have you replace your pipes.
So follow up. So does the flyer and all this information kind of outline that to people? You know, if I was sitting there with an old home or a rental property, you know, afraid that they're gonna make me tear up all my lines, you know, is there something that they could, you know, questions they could ask or that is, you know, I mean, alleviate some of their
Yep,
anxieties.
I understand the question. I don't think I can answer that directly, but what I can say is that our public information that PIO Mauer has worked on for the last couple months spells out that this is a public health initiative. So everything's based on public health, and that includes you as a consumer in your own home. So really, people can be as skeptical as they want of any governmental regulation. We can't control that, but what we can control is some of the messaging. We're gonna do some public outreach events. We'll be there in person. We'll have samples of copper pipe, galvanized pipe, plastic pipe. We have some of the leaded components that have been removed from the system over the decades that people can see, and then they can be better informed of what they're actually looking at. We also have a service request button. So if somebody has a question, whether it's technical, logistical, that'll go to Mr. Walker in our office, and he'll get back to folks.
Good.
Is there a way to test your water?
Yes. So this rule has several constituents. What we're bringing to you today is kind of the public outreach piece and the fact that customers are going to get notices in the mail. But another part of this is we do system-wide monitoring for both lead and copper as part of the rule. So between January 1st and the end of June, we will pull 60 samples throughout the system. That same sampling can be done in a customer's home at your own cost, but there's a certain procedure that you need to follow. So if a customer wanted to do that themselves, we just need to make sure you're following the proper procedure of when to sample and how large of a bottle to pull. But it is an analytical test that needs to go to a laboratory that is able to do that testing.
Follow up?
Yep.
Thank you. So back in 2013, we had all of our pipes in the house other than one vertical black pipe is the only thing that's left. So we should be, I mean, I should be good. I mean, normal hills. So then it's the question of what goes outside, isn't it?
Correct. So I don't know if I can control this very well. Dustin, you want to pull your service line presentation up? Yeah.
That one, yeah.
Okay. So great question, Counselor. So if we look at the blue pipe that runs between the meter and the home, that is the privately owned service line. And that is the very reason we're here, is to further identify that. So the two best places to identify it are at the meter location, either at the meter box or just on the customer side, hopefully still in the right of way, or right where that line comes in the basement. So Counselor, for you, to get a good assessment of that line, probably the easiest thing to do would be have a service professional or yourself look at the line coming through the wall, and on the city's website, there's a short video of how to do your own assessment. Or a plumber or any service provider like that could also help, or submit us a help request and we can help walk you through it.
So you have to find where it comes into the house. I know where the meter is outside, and then I have an irrigation meter. That's not a concern.
the irrigation meter should not feed any people drinking water by standards. However, under this program, since it's an active meter, an active water service, we still have to denote the material type. Even though it's for irrigation purposes only, under the rule, we'll be identifying those as well.
Okay.
Counselor Kleberg.
Yes.
This is Counselor Forsman. If a citizen requested assistance to identify if they have this lead in their water, what is the cost to them from the city? Or do we have an idea of that?
If I understand the question correctly, there should be no cost to the customer for any of the city's services, short of if by chance we happen to find a lead service line that runs between the meter and the home. That line is required to be replaced under the rule, but the rule does not state that the city is responsible for the cost. So our current standard operating procedure says these are gonna be hopefully rare and far between. We'll handle them on a case-by-case basis. And rest assured, we'll be working with the residents, the building owner, whoever that is, and we'll come up with a solution. But right now, as far as the standard rules concerned and evaluating the inventories and the base material types, that's a function that all community water systems across the country are having to figure out how to do.
Thank you.
Have anything further?
I would just encourage all of you to go to the website and check it out and educate yourself or your neighbors and let us know if you have any questions. We've got a good list of, like I said, frequently asked questions on there right now, but we know that things are going to come up and that we may add some more information as we go. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one more thing to add. This is, I think, as you may have picked up the vibe so far, this is the slow, meticulous, I mean, there's 5,700 or 4,770 accounts that we need to identify. So this is not gonna happen overnight. It's gonna take a little while, and you're gonna start seeing, even I think our next regular city council meeting, you'll see some code changes that we are gonna be making that helps us further comply with some of these lead and copper rules. So this is not a aha, gotcha, this is we're rolling this out, it's gonna build momentum, working out, outreach with the public and doing our best to make the identification of these service lines. So just thank you.
Thank you.
Council President Kleberg, can I just ask one last quick question? Because I not right that, did I see a due date of 10/16?
There's multiple due dates. There is a due date, 10/16, that is the compliance date to get our program sent into the DEQ, which we will be in full compliance of. We will have that uploaded for them.
I just wanted to make sure I was reading that correctly. Thanks.
Yeah, there's a hierarchy of dates and compliance, and so some of this stuff has already been submitted for their review, and some of it's, this week is the first public rollout of it. So yeah, there will be more compliance dates moving forward. There is not like a drop dead date at this point, just more dates to kind of lead us along for full compliance.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to the fire station hazard mitigation plan update. Chief.
Good evening. Craig Reitmeyer, Fire Chief. I will wait just a moment here as the great and all-knowing Oz reloads presentation. Outstanding, thank you. Council, pleasure to be with you today, providing the hazard removal update that you requested back a couple weeks ago when we were looking at vouchers payable and for the flooring cost. And so this is a little bigger picture than I provided that night for you. just reviewing our mission, this is what we're after, is to respond to our service calls with courage, conviction, and compassion. You know, a little reminder here that the great coach Phil Jackson of the Lakers of my era when I was growing up, the strength of the team is in our people, and the strength of the people is in the team that we work with. And this isn't something that we're just doing with the fire department. We're working with a lot of stakeholders here in the city, and I appreciate the support, because there's so many you don't know, so many things you don't know, and purchasing is a great help, and finance and legal, and all these folks working together. So kudos to everybody that's been helping. Kind of the timeline of where we're at, back in 2014, Fire Station 4 was identified as a need for the city to make some changes to the federal grant that was awarded to the airport to make that happen. It turned out that we weren't able to do that at the current site, and so the new site was identified, and the paths diverged at that point in time. Council purchased land for Station 4 in 2017, and then a station study was done, and kind of validating where we were going. In 2021, we went out to RFQ for that, selected a vendor, and began a process to design and build Station 4 at the site there at 5th and Brighton. In 2023, our new council halted that construction, looking at the cost of the whole project ballooning from 3.9 million of an estimate up to 8.1 million. And at that point in time, the money that the council had on hand, a little over $6 million, was placed into the assigned building fund. 2023 was when I became the fire chief in October, and in November I brought to the council the 2020 station study for consideration, and you adopted that by resolution, which gave me, as your new fire chief, the direction to go, and I really appreciate that, because once I have direction, I can work toward that. We tested to make sure that we were actually doing what we thought we needed to do, and in 2024, in the spring of 2024, we began a process of removing the first known issue that we had, which was the diesel particulate matter that was tested in the air and on the surfaces at all 3 stations. Over the course of the summer, we were able to move out of each of the stations while the contractor came in and cleaned and repainted everything. That sealed up all of the contamination, and we did some intermediate things. So when we identified that, there was 3 phases that we put this into. At first, we said we were going to get the diesel particulate fuel taken care of, and then we looked at phase 2 as the long-term air quality, and then finally the longer-term strategy of how to incorporate all of the health improvements that needed to be made at all stations. So what we've done is we put the high energy or high efficient filters in, and put standalone HEPA filters in all the stations. We held off on installing UV and the HVAC systems as those were analyzed, and we were trying not to build stuff or do stuff that then has to be undone because you do the next step. And you think about your house, you know, every time you start a project, it's like, we should have gotten the electrician in here before we had the plumber fix something, and so on and so forth. So clean and paint's been done, carpet removal and reinstallation of a solid surface flooring was done, and then we had a consultant evaluate all the information we had about the stations, the health reports, the 2020 plan, and we brought to you back in June a kind of an overall look at that whole thing. So when we look at why the healthcare concerns that we have in the stations, we have the cancer concerns from the diesel particulate filled our material, and then also from our structural firefighting gear. And so the first step was to clean and seal that diesel particulate matter, and then we're going to work towards preventing the recontamination, and that has to do with now the recommendations the engineers have made about changing layouts, HVAC, sealing up certain compartments within each station, and adding laundry facilities at each station, and then creating those zones and changing the air handling system around. On the cardiac side of things, we're looking at station alerting that incorporates the non-startle way to alert our firefighters, especially at nighttime when they're asleep. But There's a lot of studies have been done on what happens to the adrenaline and the cortisol in our systems and how that leads to cardiac problems. And then getting our workout areas up to snuffs and cleaned and isolated away from the general air. All three stations, the workout areas are adjacent to where the rigs park and all of our safety equipment is. And then we looked at what can we do ourselves right now to get things better. We've updated our fitness testing to meet the national standard. And then we looked at our schedule and we said, what can we do about our schedule? And one of the things I did last year is we stopped changing shifts at midnight. And whenever we worked overtime, we had a shift change at midnight. And so we stopped that. We said, okay, 8 in the morning, 8 in the afternoon. Not everybody loves the 12-hour shift instead of an 8-hour shift. But that was something that we needed to do and just take better care of people's sleep hygiene. And then the annual physicals was another thing that we wanted to address right away. We have a program in place to do those annual physicals. We need to improve the quality of them and the compliance with the standards, and we need to get them to what was originally put together was a kind of a sampling where we would test people every 3 to 5 years. They'd get their physical until they got older. And what we've learned is that some of these cancers we're finding in 25 and 28-year-olds and heart problems with 29-year-olds. And so we put together a plan to have those annual physicals done every year and requested that additional funding that didn't make it into the budget this year. Our priority right now is to prevent the recontamination and get that taken care of. And that was something that council expressed as we began the cleaning processes. We need to get on that. So phase 1, we're complete. Phase 2, we kind of moved that long-term air quality and the UV treatment of our air over into that 6 to 12 months. And we're delayed on that right now. That's the part that is kind of the next thing to do and to work on, and then that obviously delays phase 3 when we look at that. So that's the update that I have for you. I can tell you the next planned steps that we have is the mayor and I sitting down and looking at budget options and a direction of how we can put together a long-term plan with the money that's available and making the next steps. But that's my report, and I stand for any questions.
Council President Kleberg.
Yes.
Thanks, Chief. I appreciate that. You mentioned the physicals, which you and I have discussed before, but are we regularly sending guys now? Did we use up our budgeted amount in the last fiscal year to send our men and women to get?
We did not exhaust the budget this past year. One of the things that our health and safety team identified is that the current physicals don't meet the standard, and frankly, there's a lack of confidence in them. And so our folks, it's been optional, and some people do it and some people don't. And our plan is to make them not optional, and everybody gets to go every year. That's where we're headed to. That is the Wellness Fitness Initiative. That's the national standard. That's how that is written, and I'm currently in negotiations with another healthcare provider here in the community to provide those physicals.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Chief, for the update.
Thank you.
Chief.
Okay, well, that takes care of the discussion phase. We'll move on unfinished and new business. City councilor comments. Comments shall be not be related to an item currently. Get feedback here. Currently before the city council or an item that may come before the city council in the foreseeable future and shall be limited to comments, not discussion. Do we have any councilor comments this evening?
Counselor Kleberg.
Yes.
This is Counselor Forsman. I just wanted to apologize that I was not able to be there in person. My daughter got a fever around 12 o'clock and wasn't enough time for me to find a sitter. So Just apologizing for not being there in person.
Well, thank you for participating anyways.
Thank you.
Counselor Schroeder.
At the beginning of Fire Prevention Week, the fire department had a great Saturday, and they had where kids can have the hose and put out a burning firehouse, and the jaws of life were there. They scaled the big buildings around them, and there was just all kinds of fun things. So keep it in mind next year at the beginning, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so of Fire Prevention Week, they're gonna be doing it again. I think this is a fun way to get the kids out there to understand what the fireman does. And maybe someday will become a fireman, so he or she.
Great.
All right.
Thank
It
you.
was a great, I only got there at the end, but I saw enough that it was just great.
Okay. City boards and commissions.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Council President Lidkey, or whoever you are, Kleberg. I just want to note that I will be out of the country for the next scheduled meeting on the 14th. So I'm letting city staff know.
Okay. Thank you. City boards and commissions liaison updates. Do we have any this evening? URA meeting tomorrow,
And we have MPO on Thursday.
and we'll have an MPO meeting on Thursday.
So, that's good stuff.
Okay. Agenda topics? Yes?
So the cemetery and urban forestry meeting, we were talking about how there is on the 9th, coming up on the 9th at 10 a.m. down at the community building or the community center. There will be a presentation about what the results of the survey about what to do with the piece of land at the cemetery how people felt about it.
Okay. When's it again?
The 9th at 10 a.m.
Where?
Where's this gonna be at? Community center?
At the community center, yes.
Thank you, Counselor.
President Kleberg,
Yes.
I just wanted to provide a clarification. I believe we have our survey open until the 15th.
17th.
And then the meeting, I believe, was changed to the 30th for Urban Forestry Cemetery Advisory Commission.
Yeah, probably.
I guess I'm also posing it as a question, and I'm sort of.
Yeah, no, I just saw it's still posted on the website for the 9th.
Okay, well, I'll take a look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Would be great.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Agenda topics, do we have any agenda topics to add? Okay, well, at this point, call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilor Lickey, seconded by Councilor Schroeder. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.